You deserve quality healthcare for your body and mind regardless of your ability to pay. That's why Bowen Health conveniently offers trusted mental health care, primary health care, and addiction recovery treatment for everyone. Having regular checkups with a provider you trust means they can catch concerns early before they become an emergency. For compassionate healthcare, make an appointment today at bowenhealth.org. That's bowenhealth.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ThriveIN Wabash County podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Alex Downard, and I am extremely excited for our conversation today and our guest in the studio, Melissa Campbell. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Official title is the Inmate Services Coordinator for the Wabash County Jail. However, our community would know you as the leader and the head of the new JCAP program.
Correct.
And for our listeners, JCAP stands for?
Jail Chemical Addiction Program.
Excellent. Excellent. Melissa, you and I had the chance to chat right after I think you started and the program was being built, which we'll get into how the program was built, kind of where the model comes from. But you and I had the chance to connect, and early on could just tell your passion and belief and vision for what this program could be in our community, the impact it could have for our residents generationally, which we'll talk a little bit about today too. But had you come up to one of our staff meetings at the Community Foundation just to share about the program, and from that time forward, I know I've followed JCAP closely, at least from social media standpoint, and watched the progress, but I know our community has as well, and have seen a variety of things online. So our hope from the episode and conversation today is that our listeners get to know you a little bit and get to know what's going on with JCAP, some of the lessons learned, but also where the program's headed and what you're excited about.
Great.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Let's start, Melissa, just for our listeners who may not be familiar or may not have met you yet, a little bit of your background and your story and how you got to the JCAP program.
Okay. So I actually have lived experience. I am certified in a peer support. So I was a meth addict starting in 2012. I was arrested, had a level 4 felony, got convicted. I did 3 years probation, did not get prison. Thank God. I was very blessed in that. Completed everything perfectly. However, right after I was finished with probation, I was also with my boyfriend at the time, who was on house arrest. He modified off house arrest early, and he came home with more meth. That's when we relapsed. I was already 3 years clean, and it was off to the races, really. It did not take long for me to be hooked once again. He began dealing, and I was just very heavy in my addiction at this point, so badly that it began to mess with my mental health. I became very suicidal, very paranoid, doing things that were just off the wall. I was mentally not okay. After about 4 attempts of suicide, I knew that I had to quit. I knew I didn't want to live this way anymore. I knew that I hated every moment of it. So I put it down. It was extremely hard because now at this point I'm married to this man and he's still dealing. So he's dealing in our basement and I'm trying to get clean. And at all given times, there's an abundance amount of methamphetamine in my basement that I could grab at any moment. I went through some extremely dark periods. My mental health was not good. Even though I was clean, there was still a lot of healing and brokenness within me. A lot of abandonment issues, a lot of codependency, a lot of abuse was happening with him. It was an extremely abusive marriage. So I stayed clean. I got my relationship with God, but I wanted to do things right because I got in that marriage for better or for worse. I wanted to try to help him. It came to a point where I would just pray every single night, begging for him, like, God, you saved me, save him. Granted, we have choices, and he made his choice, and he chose to continue. We had our house raided once in 2021 by the Grant County Gene Team, and by the grace of God, they did not arrest me. They knew that I was clean. They did their homework. They know what they're doing. So he was arrested. His mom bonded him out 18 days later, although I did not want her to. And then I was hoping, oh, this is my break. He's going to stop. Things are going to we're going to get better. It got worse. In 2023, I woke up to the Gene team again, and our house was raided once again. He was elsewhere, and they had to use the explosives to get in the door to get him. So that was the last time I seen him. Minus, I went to his court hearings and stuff, but he did not bond out, and he got sentenced to 28 years. So I managed to stay clean through all of this. I am 7 years clean. Became a peer support, like I said, and I've worked in Blackford County at the IRACS program there.
And IRAC stands for?
You would ask me that.
It's okay. Acronyms everywhere. I forget all of them too. I'm with you. I've got JCAP down now, but we're good. Okay.
Yeah. Integrated Reentry something.
Yep. Very good.
I also have worked here before for the drug court program.
Okay.
I was the peer very limited time. There was not many in the program at the time when I was here, and it was just a lot of travel for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So that's when I went full-time in Blackford, worked there for a couple of years, and then I got a phone call that there was a program starting here in Wabash that the sheriff would like to interview me for, and it was running. I knew nothing about JCAP, so I did a lot of Googling, a lot of research, and very interested. Doubted myself. One of the many things I'm still working on. I thought there's no way that I could do this. There's no way I could run an entire program and have volunteers and all the things. But I took on the challenge. A lot of people that mentor me tell me all the time, and now it's one of my famous sayings is get comfortable being uncomfortable. So Sheriff Baker offered me the position, and I took the position back in May of last year.
Getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm sure what you just shared with our listeners takes time, getting comfortable sharing your story.
Oh, yeah.
And that was incredible. Congratulations on your own recovery.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the role. Congratulations to our community that you've landed here with the powerful story that you're able to share with inmates in the program, everybody, right? And with our listeners and with our community. That's extremely powerful. And I think so many lessons in what you said, but if there's listeners out there that or whatever it is that they're struggling with, right? Just to hear you be able to deliver that story, your testimony, the way that you did is incredibly powerful, and little nuggets all throughout that. So JCAP, let's talk about the program. So Sheriff Baker brings you on board, has the vision to launch a JCAP program here. What is the program? What is it like? How's it structured?
Okay, so JCAP is a 4-month program. There's a whole process to getting it started, so I'll take you from start to finish.
Yeah.
I go to all the blocks in the jail, and I give my little spiel of how JCAP is, and I give them an application. They have about a week to fill it out. So,
how many cell blocks roughly are in the Wabash County Jail?
11.
11, and roughly how many inmates in each?
They're all vary.
Yeah.
Some house 30 people, some house 12.
Got it. Very good. Okay.
My block for JCAP, because they have their own block, sleeps 12.
Okay.
So, and I have a male block and a female block.
So you go to each of the blocks, tell them about what the program entails.
Tell them what is the block.
Love it.
Yes.
Okay.
And what it entails is basically what I tell them. It is a 4-month long program that you move into this block as a group, and you become a sisterhood, a brotherhood. You have classes for 6 to 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. There's a couple classes on Saturdays, depending on when my volunteers can come in. So you have all these classes, and we have 50% mental health, and we have 50% life skills. So it is deep healing, makes you dig deep. We're not just going surface level.
No surface level.
And I know, someone that's been there, and a lot of my volunteers that have lived this life as well, we know if you're not digging deep. There's a lot of trauma that comes out. There's we have therapy. I have a therapist on site at all times. Not all times, but most of the days.
Yeah.
And the guards are amazing. Even if a therapist isn't there, if someone needs someone to talk to, they're there. The guards try to help as much as they can. So shout out to the jail staff because they're amazing with this. So basically they have 50% mental health, 50% life skills. They have anything from seeking safety. They have DPT, MRT. They have therapy, they have life skills, they have art therapy, they have fitness.
So some of the life skills, cooking.
Cooking, they
Okay.
have banking 101.
Okay.
Beacon Credit Union
Comes in and does
comes
that.
in
Okay.
and does that. They have a whole team. They take turns coming in once
Yeah.
a week. They've been amazing. They teach them everything from just opening up a savings account to how to get a mortgage and how to fix your credit. We have Work One that comes in, and they do everything to get them ready for a job, how to do interviews, how to make a resume. They make a resume while they're there. They set up a whole Work One account, so when they get out, they can go straight in and get their resume. We do mock interviews at week 15. So they get a mock interview outfit. They get a polo. The women get like sweaters,
Yeah.
whatever. They get a nice pair of slacks and they get shoes. And we have members in the community that have come in and volunteered their time to do these interviews.
Yeah.
So that way, when they are released, they have a job interview ready outfit as well. So that's very helpful. So they have the resume, they have an outfit, they have the shoes, and we have had every participant has been offered a position for when they get out through these companies within Wabash. So that's been amazing and
Amazing.
huge.
Yeah.
I have guest speakers that come in. I have Waypoint come in, which she's also one of my volunteers. I have Brian Blevins through Kingdom Recovery in Muncie. I have Andy in Bluffton. I have Harmony Home. I have New Beginnings. So I have a variety of people from different counties come in because sometimes people just want out of Wabash.
Yeah.
They want a fresh start.
Yeah.
And I tell them, because some people will be like, well, I just need out of Wabash. I'll be better if I'm out of Wabash. You can run,
Yeah.
but you will be there when you land. So it's not always the town, it's you. So, but I do like to give them a variety. And sometimes people in jail, I had one from Elkhart. He was not from here. So I just like to give them a variety, maybe a different change. And every sober living is not going to be for one person.
Yeah.
So
16 weeks, 4 months of the program, 6 to 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, some Saturdays.
Yeah.
And the amount of community volunteers, community support that goes into this program,
yes.
you're lining all of that up.
Yes, it
building.
took me, when I started in May, we didn't start our first group until August
So 24, 25.
25.
May of 2025 was when you started. And the curriculum, or at least some of the models, did that come from an existing? Is JCAP elsewhere? Are there some different
Yes.
programs you're able to pull
So
from?
I toured and shadowed Clinton County.
Okay.
I shadowed Allen County and Kosciuszko County.
Okay. That's great.
All of them are very similar, but yet very different. Basically, I got to choose the classes. Everyone chooses their own classes, what they want. The mental health, I'm very passionate about mental health. So I really wanted to dig deep and get some really good ones that's going to make them, they have no choice but to dig deep.
Yeah.
Our lady that teaches Seeking Safety, her name is Barb, and she is absolutely incredible. She is everyone's favorite. She knows her stuff, and and it takes a certain person to teach Seeking Safety. It's the most in-depth for trauma, and she's just phenomenal at it. So we got very
Melissa,
blessed.
without obviously completely anonymous and not giving away too much information for our listeners that may not be familiar with a couple examples of some trauma that some people that have came through JCAP might be going through, just for perspective of the level that you're getting to in some of these conversations.
We've had men that have been sexually abused. We've had women sexually abused. We've had women that have been, their parents have sold them for sex as young children so they could get their drugs. So this is not just, oh, you woke up one day and you wanted to do drugs. This has been generational, where dad did drugs and then sold you as a child so he could get his drugs. There has been so much abuse on both sides, really. It's not just women that are abused, it's men abused. A lot of fathers that have been in and out of their lives as well because of this, and they're kind of just, literally, it's just like a painting, like one after another. Generational.
Problem.
Like I've had a couple say, I am my father to a T. Everything that's happened to him is now happening to me because of his choices, instead of trying to get help or lack of help, really, and knowledge. This really came about and really blew up, I think, in 2020 when there were so many deaths starting to happen. And that's when peer support really became big and became a thing. And it's been huge since.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Seeking Safety course through one of the mental health curriculum, Barb, you said is her name. She
Yep.
teaches that course. What are some of the things involved in the Seeking Safety portion of the course?
There's a lot of forgiveness of yourself. There's a lot of forgiving, learning how to forgive others. There's a lot of one-on-one conversations. I've watched them to where they do the chair. It's called the chair exercise. And when I was watching, it was one of the guys, he volunteered to do it, and there's an empty chair in front of him. And he is having a conversation with his younger self in front of everybody. And it's all volunteer. He didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's like they have to write a letter to themselves. But he chose to do that in front of everybody and talk to his younger self, which I've had to do myself. And it is probably the hardest thing I ever did because of the trauma that I had, even as a child, not just in my marriage. I had a lot of trauma growing up. And what we may think is not trauma can be trauma to someone else. My parents were divorced at a very young age, so that was traumatic for me. And that may not be traumatic for the other person. That didn't bother me when parents got divorced, that type of thing. Yeah. But so everyone has different levels of it, but it's a lot of opening up and it's a lot of sharing and learning to realize that it's uncomfortable, but it's safe. And in order to heal and to figure out why you're using, you have to dig up those skeletons.
And the level of trust that has to exist, obviously with the instructor, right? Is they're listening to instructions, or with you with the program, but amongst each other. So talk a little bit about day one. So if I'm in JCAP, what are some of the things that you all do? Because that cannot be a natural thing when somebody goes from just being in a different cell block to being a part of the JCAP program. Obviously, you can tell them all about this is a requirement. You have to commit to this program, but then them doing that.
And me telling them has been totally different. They've all said, like, you minimized.
Yeah, what it is.
And I didn't minimize. Like, I tell them, you are going to dig deep.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize.
Yeah.
Until they
So
get
how
in
do
there.
you get them there? I mean, because nobody's naturally going to be that way in a room full of strangers to where they can sit in a chair and have a conversation
and
with
these are
themselves.
People that have used together. They have been in trouble together. They may not even like each other.
Right.
But going in, my first thing is that I say is there anyone in here that you have a problem with?
Day one on the
Speak now,
program,
because
we're in the same cell block.
If you have, I don't want to hear it 5 minutes from now or tomorrow. I want to know now. If there's anyone you cannot get along with, let's go. We'll figure it out. Then it's, our basic intake, paperwork, all the things. And then I just tell them, like, you are going to hold each other accountable. They earn things within the program. Incentives as it goes on. They earn a coffee pot. They earn a microwave.
For the group to share, so everybody's pool.
Yes, but it does not happen unless everybody's on the same page. Yeah. So if Billy Bob over here is not taking it serious, and we've got 9 others that are, them 9 others should be saying something in a respectful way. So second day is really when I kind of get things going, and I take them to the rec area, and I tell them all to get in a circle, and then I tell them to cross hands, and I do the human knot.
The facial expressions or the comments that they must make when you're making them to do that on day 2.
A bunch of grown men.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Grown men
holding
hands.
Yeah, if I walked in with our staff or our team and said, this is what we're doing today, I know the looks that I would get.
Yes,
so I
and do
imagine.
The human knot. And it's funny because, and it's also not only to build trust within each other, it's to follow directions. Yeah. And they never listen to the directions the first time. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, what do we do? And it's like, okay, now let's do this again. Do you want to listen to the directions? Yeah. So, and then they get it. And then you get the high fives with each other. And they're like, yeah, And then you get, and in fitness, they push each other. And with the second and third group with the men what has been game changer is I have a mentor. I've had 2 mentors in there. And that's been huge for the other groups because they've been through it. I have a guy now that's now been a mentor for 2 groups. And so he's been in JCAP now because this August is our year. So he's now been in JCAP for a year.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just sit back and watch. He literally does every single class, every bit of homework, all of it right along with them. So he pushes, he helps them. Listen, if you're struggling, he's a great one to go to. Yeah. If he sees some nonsense, he is quick to hold them accountable. So that's been huge and a huge help to have.
Yeah. Holy cow. So, all right. So they're about 50% life skills, different volunteers coming in to help teach those courses from the community, 50% mental health, same thing. You have some counselors on staff that are coming in to help through
Yep.
all these different topics in the 16 weeks.
Yep.
How many people in cohort 1, so in the very first cohort, you said launched in August of 25. How many individuals were in that cohort?
We had 8.
8. Okay. And then
We had 8 graduate.
8 graduate. And how many?
No, I'm sorry. We had 7 graduate in the first group. And then we had 5 in the next group.
Okay.
And then we had 4 females.
Okay.
I did have another female that was released right before graduation, but I have to say she's doing phenomenal. She went to sober living on her own. She was not made to go. She chose to go. She's doing fantastic. Okay. So, yes, we've had 7 first group, 5, and then 4. And then now I have 5 left so far in this current group.
Okay.
And one of them is a mentor.
Oh, nice. Have you had anybody, male or female, that starts the program and for reasons outside of them getting released that are kicked out or that don't finish because they're not?
Yeah.
Okay.
First group I started with, I believe it was 10.
Okay.
2 of them I had to kick out.
Okay.
Just were not, very disrespectful. And on first day, it's a lot of the rules, like you will not disrespect the jail staff. You're held to higher standards. There's not cussing at the jail staff. There's none of that. Handle it in a respectful. If you have an issue, let's talk about it. Let's have an adult conversation. So I had one that just was very disrespectful, and you got to go. You already knew the rules.
Yeah.
I've had another one that he was not disrespectful. It was just more of not grasping it, not trying, but it wasn't an automatic kick out. It was like, let's have a conversation. I need you to, this is what I need you to be doing. Yeah. And I'm not saying like you should rush your healing. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But you should be showing some effort and there should be some growth. And there was nothing. And then there was another issue where he stole something from somebody. And we were on like week 6. You should be past that by now. I ended up having to kick out one a week before graduation. She decided to cuss me out, call me all kinds of names, and we're a week before graduation. This should not be happening. And it wasn't to my face. That was the problem. I gave her the opportunity to say how she felt one-on-one. She went back on the block to the others, and it was bringing the rest of the block down. Melissa's this, Melissa's that, da-da-da-da. I gave you the chance. You should have said that when I had you out, not trying to diminish everybody else's progress. Yeah. So I kicked her out a week before graduation, and it's never
difficult.
easy.
I was just going to say,
it's never easy because
how heavy.
I have the heart and I
build a relationship with these folks, right?
Yeah. I mean, most of them kind of look at me as like a mom, honestly. It's more of like a mom figure. And we build these bonds and we build these relationships and then I want them to be able to speak freely to me. I've had one that him and I just clashed all the time. He was very angry and I seen a lot of myself in him. And typically they say, if you don't like something in someone,
look in the mirror.
Look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And it's true. And we did clash, but he wasn't afraid to tell me how he felt or be mad or be angry. We let him be angry because sometimes we just need to yell and let it out. And that's what he needed. And he's out. He's in sober living. He's doing fantastic. He's just, it's just a different level of, it's okay. I'm going to allow you to yell. I'm going to allow you to say the things you need to say versus going on the block and making a huge disaster of things. So
yeah, it's that level of trust that the program's built on, it sounds like, right? Yeah. So we should have started here, but overall goal of the JCAP program for our listeners, I mean, the JCAP program exists because of what? Because of Sheriff Baker and Tyler and Ashley, the jail commander. It also exists because of the council and the commissioners with the opioid fund, those things. And the ultimate goal is to get an inmate obviously clean, right? Yes. Work through addiction. Yes. Reduce the chance of recidivism. Yes. All of the help themselves just as individuals, even regardless of the outcome of anything, just as an individual be in a better place personally with themselves because of this 16-week intervention.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. It's about getting to the root cause as to why and showing them that having the volunteers is huge part of this program. It would not be a program without these volunteers. It is showing them that there are people out there willing to help you and that you're not in this alone, that there is a
Companies,
chance.
resources.
I mean,
just
the
a general
amount.
community that's ready to pour in
Yeah.
to help you succeed.
Yeah.
And for some, I'm guessing, not knowing too many, but hearing some of the testimonies, some of them have never felt that before, potentially in
100%.
their life.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know so many people cared. I would have never thought that someone from Beacon Bank would care about us. You know, I get that a lot. I get someone from Work One truly wants to help us and see us succeed. I would have never thought these people high up would care. So it's pretty amazing to watch and hear these guys and see their faces when I'm like, oh, hey, one of the commissioners is coming in. They want to meet you. Or, you know, just we had someone from the lieutenant senator come in and they were just amazed because, you know, some of us think, oh, this is an everyday thing, you know, but as to us in addiction, we're like, oh my gosh, do you know who I just met? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Huge. So far, coming up on 3 full cohorts that have been through, things you wouldn't have expected with the program, things that walking into it, both personally and just overall with the program, some of those initial things, like anything brand new, right? You're going to tweak it, continue to refine. What are some of those things that you've learned along the way?
I've learned that, you know, some things we've had, like you said, some good and bad. We're learning. It's a new program.
Yeah.
We're going to be changing things. One of the things that's been hard is the level of felony, whether it be a 6, a 5, a 4, a 3, 2, 1. Those lower levels are very hard for future wise.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. We're kind of changing on who we
The selection
accept.
process, the
Yes.
interview process. Yeah.
The interview
Yeah.
process, who we select,
Yeah.
has been the challenge because I want them all in.
Yeah.
And I can't, and I can
But
only
limited
pick-
resources,
Yeah.
right? That's like any new program anywhere, right? Anything, whether it's related to the justice system or internships or anything, right?
Yep.
It's limited resources, and how do you stretch that as far as you can?
Yeah.
And the best way you can.
Yeah.
But that's hard. Those are humans, right? Behind all of it, which
Yeah.
in your
And I
shoes
can
is
see,
hard.
you know, and some of them with their applications, they give me 2 pages handwritten as to why they want it, and they tell me their life stories, and it's like, it's hard. It's really hard.
So of those that have came through and graduated, if you can share just, again, no names, no identifiable information, but just testimonials of success stories, right? Of what you've heard as people have graduated, what they say about the program, what it's done for them personally, professionally. It sounds like a couple that have gotten out, right? Are on a great path, right? Opting into things themselves,
Yeah.
being progressive and continuing their recovery and support system around them
Yeah.
to be successful. But some of the graduates, what are some of the things they share at the graduation?
They share that the main thing that they share is they didn't realize how many people care. The other is that they didn't realize that it was okay to speak about their trauma and to how it's so safe. It's a safe space. The brotherhood, the sisterhood that they have bonded with each other. They never thought that this experience would probably be the best experience they've ever had of their life. The most fun, yet extremely difficult time of their lives, but rewarding. One guy just recently told me that this has been the one that's been with me for a year now. He's like, I have never seen so much growth in myself. Like, he is not the same person that I met a year ago. He was angry, mad. When I went on the block, he was just a cussing, having a fit. And that person is gone. I can't even begin to tell you the change in that man. Truly remarkable is what that one is.
Melissa, you spoke a little bit earlier that the same program, the same facility, the right reintegration program isn't the same for everybody, even if they've been through the similar things, right? Trauma's different to everybody. The solution might look different for everybody. I hear you sharing some of these stories about this gentleman, and we have a K-12 school system. We have some college supports. We have life circumstances that happen to people, and people learn differently and respond differently to challenges and need that solution. They come to that solution differently, right? And so hearing you share this story about this gentleman that is ups and downs and seen the ups and downs in life, been through school, probably whatever trauma he went through, and it took JCAP, right, in this program to be that for him, right, to where he can sit and tell you that he's never seen growth in himself like this, right? And I would probably say most people doesn't take to get to the point to come to that conclusion, but to hear that JCAP is that resource that we have in this community that can help bring individuals to that is extremely powerful for folks that are the most vulnerable at times.
And it's remarkable is the very first group or the very first time I went into all the blocks, like the application was very limited. And I tell them there is no time cut, because I want them. And that's part of JCAP is you have to want it.
Yeah. The only reason why you're coming here can't be because you're trying to get out early.
Exactly.
Right? You're stepping in fully knowing.
Otherwise, I'd have everybody everybody in that jail trying to get in. I want people that want it. And so it was very limited on applications. I was pretty impressed for the first time. But the second it got better, I just put in some applications for females, just got some back. Every single female put in an application.
That's in jail in Wabash County.
Every single
100% of the female inmates applied.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And so are there scenarios where if I'm in prison or I'm in jail and I get selected to go participate in JCAP, I go through JCAP and then I return to a different cell block or until I'm out, right? Or until my sentencing at any point? Is there?
We have a graduation block.
Got it.
So the plan is you will not go back to Gen Pop.
Got it. Very good.
Because then you're just going to lose everything you just learned.
Yeah. So you're still with the same group or some of the same group, depending on the different individual scenarios. But wow, how powerful. Yeah. So JCAP, you'd mentioned some of the lessons learned, right? Some of selection on the front end, some of the programming things. Is the programs continued? What are some of the major lessons that either you've already implemented changes or you plan to as it relates to the programming, right? Some of the things that you've learned. What's next for JCAP on the programming side?
So we want to add some more classes. I know we're already at 6 to 8 hours, but there's some days there's more classes to be offered. We do volunteer work which I think you've seen at the animal shelter, and that's part of their MRT, their service work to give back to the community. I would like to try to possibly expand that and help in other ways possible. I know 2 of my mentors volunteered to move the health department here recently. They just moved their entire office for them. So different things like that has been huge. And it only doesn't benefit just the community. It's benefiting them as well, just as much. They get back. They love it. Yeah. They love volunteering, and they've got so many ideas of, well, we could do this, and we could clean up parks, and we could, they just really want to get out there and help. So I would like to expand possibly the community service part of things, if possible. I know sometimes resources are hard because they are. I don't want to say they're just inmates. They're not just inmates, or they are inmates, but at this end of the day, they are inmates. Yeah. And so we do have to have guards, and we do have to have people with us. Transportation, all the things. So we do have to play it safe as well. But I think that's probably one of the big things I want to do, and probably add more programming besides JCAP to also offer to Gen Pop as well, general population. Yeah. For others that can't get in because of their charges or whatnot, still offer them something that they can take with them if they are looking at many years. Because everyone can learn, everyone can grow, everyone can heal, and I think that's important. And I believe Tyler, he'll be Sheriff Tyler, Gannon, and Sheriff Baker, their heart is in it. They truly believe in the rehabilitation.
Which I'm guessing is not the case everywhere, right? I mean, just from the top down to have leadership like that within the sheriff's department, that would be easy to do it the same way that the correction system's probably been handled. I'm not by no means anywhere near an expert, but has been handled for decades, hundreds of years probably, the traditional way, and it would be really easy to be a leader in a sheriff's department to just say, nope, we're going to hardline and we're not going to think outside the box.
Oh,
we're not willing to try
absolutely.
anything different. And the fact that we've had now two, our current sheriff and then Sheriff Gannon-elect, or whatever the proper way to say that, both have that aligned vision and openness to think outside the box and try that. And then to your earlier point that the county commissioners, the county council have also supported them, right?
Yeah.
And back to them.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you also got to think that they hired someone with a felony. They did help me get my record expunged, so I am no longer a felon. But to put that trust in me is huge. For me, it's huge, and and I tell the guys and I tell my females, like, this isn't just for you. I still learn things, and I learn from you, and I'm still growing. I'm constantly going to be healing and learning different things.
I have to believe the trust of the program, the spirit of the program, the success of the program so far only worked. And I'm guessing what Sheriff Baker and Tyler were thinking when they were looking for someone to lead the program. It would be really hard, I'm guessing, for Tyler to be the one that walks into JCAP every day and for the inmates to trust somebody that's not been in their shoes, likely, right? And I don't want to assume that about Tyler, but just to have somebody that can sit across the table from them and them know to see you now and you be able to share, look, I've been down, right? Here was my trauma, right? This is what I've been through. How powerful.
What I love about my story now is that, something that I used to hate about my story is that I've lived on both sides. I have been the addict and with the spouse, and then I've been the clean side fighting for my spouse that's an addict. So I've seen the trauma on both ends, the trauma that I caused my family. Then now in return, I was living the trauma he was causing me. So I can go with that. I can speak to that. I can go in and I can tell these guys, like, when they're calling their wives names or whatever it is that's happened, like, listen.
I've been you and I've been on that side.
Yeah. So, and it gives them a perspective, like, instead of someone else sitting there and be like, you've never lived this, how can you help me? You have no idea what I'm thinking or how I'm feeling.
Yeah. So, nobody's going to get in a chair in a room full of what used to be strangers or people they don't like and feel comfortable enough and trust enough to have a conversation with their earlier self without you and that level of trust. If you're willing to share, I mean, how, for you in your own recovery journey still, right, today and recovery,
absolutely.
How healing is that for you that you now have the opportunity to make that impact and have those level of conversations with others?
I look back and where I'm at today is just remarkable to me. It still chokes me up, honestly, because it's like, how did I get here? For me, by the grace of God, there's no other way that, that I got here. And to look back to where I was, 7 years isn't long. It's really not a long time. So for me, it was just yesterday. I was a hot mess. I was broken. I couldn't even hold a job. My abandonment issues kept me from going to work. And, so to be where I'm at now and to be living single and independent and running a program and having sheriffs and commissioners and city council put that trust in me is amazing to me. And it's a blessing, honestly.
We're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And pouring in every day. Appreciate everything you've shared in terms of looking back now at yourself and all of those things. What are you most proud of about JCAP so far and what you've seen?
The participants, the growth that they have done. It's remarkable to watch on day one and then to look at their last day at graduation. There's never a dry eye at graduation. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch even on week 3 and, to see those little things happening within them and how they approach me even is totally different from week 1 to week 3.
That growth.
It's phenomenal. I mean, really, it's...
Yeah. And it's not like you're seeing them in passing where they're putting on a facade. I mean, you're in a room with all of them for 6 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
so there's no high...
and I'm not with them for 6 to 8 hours, but I'm in there.
Right.
And I can watch them on camera.
Yeah.
But I'm back and forth all day long taking volunteers. And I always tell them from day one, you can try, but I've been there, done that. And I can tell when you're just playing a game.
Yep.
You know, there may be some that try to be, but that's what I have my mentors for as well. They'll let me know.
They know, yeah.
They'll let me know they're not taking it serious when you walk away.
Other side, for our community members listening, most challenging. What's been the most challenging piece looking back now? Coming up on a full year, right? What has been the most challenging thing as you think about JCAP?
The schedule.
Yeah.
Scheduling all these volunteers and getting everyone's time, because they're volunteers.
Coordinating all
they
of
all
that,
have
yeah.
jobs.
Yeah.
That's been the most difficult. I think the other portion, probably on like the life skills part of things, the most challenging would probably be our cooking class. Just trying to keep that going, having the donations for the cooking. Our volunteer buys everything on her own. It's expensive out there.
Yeah.
So I think those are it's been a challenge to figure out where that's coming from.
Yeah.
But definitely the scheduling and getting the times, and especially when you're running two groups. When I'm running a male group and a female group at the same time, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of volunteers. And that's a lot of messages. Hey, can I switch with this person for this day? This isn't working for me. And then I've had some volunteers that have had to stop volunteering with this during this group. Some life things have come up. Some job changes where they just can't make it here. So those are, and then filling those gaps has been huge. Trying to, and I don't want just anyone. I want someone that has the heart for it. I want someone that, I don't want just a body. I want something that's going to put in the work with them and, feel the way I do about it. And all of my volunteers, everyone that's come forward, truly just puts their whole heart into this.
Yeah, that's a great transition to the next point. So listeners that are out there in the community that may not have been familiar with JCAP, they knew a little bit, but now after hearing your story, hearing more about the program, they're interested in getting plugged in, either from a donation side of items monetarily or volunteering. What is the best way they can get plugged into JCAP? And if there's other needs other than what I'd mentioned, what is that? How could somebody in the community support JCAP?
Like I said, we do, the donations. JCAP, especially in like Allen County and Kosciuszko County, they solely depend on a lot of donations. They get their clothing. They earn for fitness. They earn some tennis shoes. They earn a T-shirt, sweatpants, sweatshirt, and basketball shorts. Those are huge donations. Like I said, the cooking class is another huge donation. And then they have their mock interview outfits. Those type of things are always a great way for someone to donate. Or even if they just want to be a guest speaker, if you have lived experience, or if you're a parent of an addict and you would like to come in and speak, they can reach me at the jail. My extension is 1237. Just call the jail phone and hit that extension.
Wabash County Jail, call the main line and direct to your extension.
Yep.
Great. In closing here, Melissa, what is one thing from this episode or just about JCAP in general you want somebody in our community to take away? If they know anything about JCAP, what is the one thing you want them to know?
That these participants aren't taking it lightly. They are putting their whole heart in it. They truly want change. They're not doing it for a time cut. They're not doing it to get out of jail free. They're doing it because they want change and they don't want to feel that darkness anymore. And unless you've lived that darkness, you may not understand, but it's very dark and it consumes you. They didn't just wake up and decide to be an addict. Like I said in the beginning, there's many factors. I didn't just wake up and decide to be an addict. There's many factors that go even further than 2013 when I started. It's hard. What they're doing is extremely hard. I just, I pray for them every night. I pray that even with the ones that get out, I still have that mom instinct to where I'm like, how are they doing? Are they doing okay? And I check up on them. And it doesn't stop when you leave that jail. I still check on them. I still have a lot of volunteers still check on them. So, and I still see them. Some of them at recovery events I've seen them at, and I've seen a couple get baptized. It's been amazing.
Thank God. And at the very least, right, to our listeners, if a faith prayer, right?
Prayer.
For you as leader, for Sheriff Baker, Tyler, all of the volunteers, but the participants in the program, right? And that's one thing I would say, that my eyes have been opened through this episode, not just about some of the things that in life circumstances that folks go through, and fortunate that I haven't experienced that, but also the accountability that comes with the program, right? To your point of getting into the program. But if you're in, I think everybody that listened to this episode knows that this is something that's worthwhile and meaningful on all fronts, right?
Yeah.
But whether it's from the life circumstances and why that we should have programs like this that allow folks to get through that and process those emotions and trauma and learn the skills to get on the right path when they're out.
Right.
But even if they're not out, that they're out of that dark spot through this program in itself, right? And the accountability that comes. So thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing more about the JCAP program. We'll make sure for our listeners that we put information in the show notes, the phone number, the extension you mentioned, and your email of how they can get in contact with you
great.
to be able to support the program. We're so grateful for your time, Melissa, to share.
Thank you for having me.
No, of course. It's personally biased. Love the opportunity to chat with you and learn more for myself, and know that our listeners will feel that way about this episode as well. As always, this podcast is made possible through our generous support from Bowen Health, the Lisa Gilman Investment Fund, the Sandy Kunkel Trust, Mark and Amy Ford, Paperworks Industries, the City of Wabash, the Community Foundation of Wabash County, and Visit Wabash County. Until next time, I'm Alex Downard, and this is the ThriveIN Wabash County podcast.